Okay, it's looking like we're on. Hello, everybody. By everybody, I mean no one. A bunch of our systems went down at work, and so no one is actually able to get into their computers, and because of that, I'm doing a couple power hours. Because it can reasonably be said that I actually could not be working now, even if I wanted to. For those who watch this in posterity, I tend to be pretty rigorous about about not using work hours to work on this project. Just because I have a job I really like and coworkers that I really like, so I try to be pretty uh, rigorous about the fact that they're paying me for my time. But on this specific occasion, there is really nothing else that I could be doing, so I'm a little bit less embarrassed about it since I'll probably be making up the time tonight. Everyone. Alrighty. Plugging Claude's 3.5, what's it called? Sonnet model one more time. It's been really impressive. Really friggin' impressive and scary. All right, so a little recap what we've been working on. Basically, we have loading and saving working. So save files allow you to load into the game state. Right now, the things that it's holding are player position, the current level, and the player's inventory, and uh, not even just all containers and items in the game and their statuses. Um, I think that's really kind of all that exists right now. I'll probably want to long term also add narrative state in, but we haven't figured out how we're going to solve for that yet. So I'm holding off on that. So I think really the only remaining thing that I'm not currently saving that I want to is player position. And this is a save menu. So I have a singleton that handles saving and loading. And I'm going to put. So I guess first and foremost, I want to make sure that we're actually saving rotation, just because I think we should. And then I'm going to look a little bit more critically at the rest of the solution and try to decide if I like the way I've done did it. Because I think that there's probably a few issues. It's fast, and I've tried it with much bigger save files, and one of the benefits of it is that it's a very quick change because we don't unload anything unless we need to. But that risks pollution of state from game to game and kind of opens up, I think, a reasonable likelihood of bugs in the future. So I'm wondering whether I want to be a bit more methodical about the way that I switch from save to save. Reinitializing singletons, stuff like that. But haven't fully decided. Okay, where is this going to be? Managers, save game manager. So, S3 dot save. See if Copilot realizes. Yep. Instant. absolutely friggin' instant. All right. So in terms of initializing a new save, here's the random position that we set them to. Oh, let's bar rotation. 0 Euler. That should do it. And I think the only other thing that we need to do is save game. I think load game is going to be in here somewhere. Yeah, we're going to have to update this struct. Don't know how I feel about all of this living in a struct. I still maintain that it's probably going to be a small enough file overall that holding it in a single struct is probably not a big deal. It's also not going to be held in memory for very long, but I'll reconsider that if our narrative tree becomes giant for one reason or another. But we're not holding like all the dialogue in it or anything like that. It's just a series of variables, and there shouldn't even be that many of those. I mean, many for a person to keep track of, not many for a machine to keep track of. So I'm not super worried about that. All right, and then in our loading manager, I think the only other thing that we need to do is to. I don't know if it's considered bad practice in Unity to leave debug logs in your system. I like it personally. I left them in Unreal and just had build checks injected into them so that if they weren't clogging up anything in the build. But I'm not sure if Unity does that automatically. I have to take a look at that. Set player position and camera. Yeah. And there's that. I think that should do it. So this should mean that now we are in fact doing the thing. Here's our floating games. I'm gonna yeet away my saves and start a new game to initialize a new save file. So we want to see that that's currently exists. And go to our base scene, player, rotation is 0, 0, 0. If we just turn around and move down to over here, let's say, and we'll save this as test. You can see currently, among other things, we are not, as we probably should be, disabling input when the menu state is loaded. Also, obviously, these are ugly as hell. Don't judge me. We're going to be doing probably a big pass at inventory later in the year. I might, just for the sake of being able to have some time to work on animations and tweening and stuff in the UI, just go and shell out for a UI package somewhere with some probably not prefabs, but at least like images and backgrounds and things that we can use just to familiarize myself with what actual assets should look like and how they get scaled and stuff. Because that's that'll be used regardless of what our UI assets end up being. But for now, I'm just using these as tests for functionality. But I know they're ugly. Leave me alone. Okay. So what's this? I don't think there's any. No, Brent. Okay. I thought I saw somebody join. Nope. I'm all alone. Okay. Let's load test. Let's see if. Yep, that worked. Okay, cool. So that was easy. I'm gonna commit the. Yeah, is there anything I did that's janky? Save. Rotation. Squeeze that in a little bit. Okay. So what else am I trying to do? So that's about it. This means that we pretty much end to end, and I guess for nothing on my sleeves, I'll show it working in an actual build. I've tried to get better about this. I think that making sure that your builds actually consistently work is a clean as you cook kind of thing. It's pretty headachy to do at the end because builds are a lot less vocal about where they're failing. There you have it. No errors, at least not as far as I can see. Loading remains pretty snappy. So yeah, I'm not mad about this. Again, still haven't solved this. I think it's just because we're loading in our depth buffers as PNGs. And probably need to not be doing that. So, more on that later. But yeah, that about does it. The next kind of major thing that I want to look into is what the actual pipeline I built here is, because I kind of rushed this just to make sure that it actually works, because this is my first time working extensively with Unity Scene Manager. So I wanted to validate that the assumptions that I was making were correct. Made a few mistakes, learned a little bit more about coroutines and where they live, which is good. It's a little bit different from tasks in Unreal, which is sad. I actually really like Unreal tasks, but such is life. It's not a big deal. We have singletons. So basically, I'm trying to think about resilience here. Resilience and initialization. So currently, the way that the save state that we have works is that you have a couple of managers that you need. I say that a couple of managers that you need. I guess the game state manager probably isn't even that necessary. Like, are we using this for anything? I mean, no, we're not. So we can at least remove this for now. And to be honest with you, like I this was kind of one thing I also want to do is go through the managers that we've built for the project and figure out which ones are actually necessary. I've made a lot kind of half-cocked and then forgotten to delete them. So my guess is, I say a lot. I've made, I don't know how many. This many, and most of them are in use. So camera, container, dice roll, those are all used. Input. A lot of these are functionally getting used. So I'm not by any means saying that these are not valid. There's a couple of them that I'm a little bit less sure of, like Game State and Interactable Object Manager, that were created kind of along the way and briefly had uses, but now are not being used as actively. So those are singletons, and for anyone who doesn't know, Unity has I don't know what you'd call it, a protocol, a method, whatever it is. It's called DDOL, Don't Destroy Unload, and what you do is if you call that on a game object, I think you'll be able to see it actually if I start the game. For most of these, I think all of these actually are globals. Yeah, it creates what I believe is a pseudo scene with all of the global structures that you don't want to lose when and if the scene changes, basically. So when you load that, the load that you're not destroying on is when you load another scene. So I think the way that that's happening under the hood is that Unity just schlorps them into a sort of special sauce scene that never unloads no matter what you do. I could be wrong about that, but that seems to be what it is, given that that's how it shows up in the editor. So we have more managers than this, but they don't live in the main menu, which I think may make sense. But they live in the base scene. So I think we've talked about this. This is what I was looking at over the course of the weekend. Scene structure in Unity and the way that the scene manager works. Scenes can be additive. So we have our base scene, and then the way that it works, and that contains a lot of our kind of core managers systems. Currently, the player, I think I've changed my mind on the player living in the base scene. I think we probably want to initialize the player and deinitialize the player in given levels using the level manager. At the very least, I think we probably want to despawn the player. I'll choose whether or not. The thing is, the player is going to be in every scene. I think unambiguously. So it makes some amount of sense to have them in the base scene for simplicity and consistency. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about. So currently, what's basically happening. This is an area where I think it's realistic that you could have pollution. Is that the player just sort of continues to exist, and when you load something, you just. I think actually I might be able to. Be cool if I did. Yeah. So nothing, but if we load autosave, it's just no, it gets angry. Huh. Oh, that's weird. And moreover, does it block input? No. Dude, I'm very confused. Okay, what's going on here? Now I'm kind of just interested. I hadn't tried this. This is not a state that you should ever end up in. But we have a coroutine in our loading manager that should load the game. Active scene is base scene. So what should happen, unless I'm mistaking something, is we should load the base scene, unless. Oh. Shit. Oh, no. We don't. In fact, it gets angry at us at some point. Okay. So, what would this be? We get to loading game. Handle load game. Loading manager, instance load game. And never passed that. Tell you what, kind of sus. So we're getting the. That should start this coroutine. Save game. Let's save file. Honestly, just so that I'm not nuts. Because we're not even fading to black, is the thing. which is super weird. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Very strange. Oh, do you know what it is? Do you know what I bet it is? Yeah, I don't think we have a loading manager. Okay. Huh. Then how did we have we just not tested that? I don't even know how this has been working. Okay, sorry. That's really stupid of me. But anyone who's actually watching this is probably getting used to that. Yeah, this is one of the problems. So having this many of these things pretty much means that it's a risk that they won't get initialized. Um, I'm trying to find ways to make that mistake unmakeable, but I haven't really figured out a way to do that yet. Okay. So now if I start up, we have loading manager with all its junk. Load autosave. You know what? Still not completely working. So it does behave a little questionably. Loading base scene. Are we also missing a save game manager? Oh my gosh. Well, at least I figured it out in less than 20 minutes this time. Yeah. All right. You're welcome. I was gonna say we should at least get to some of the stuff. No? Okay, that's a little bit more surprising. So there's a save manager. All right. So what is going on here? Oh, do you know what it probably is? Here. So the active scene probably is the base scene because we load other scenes additively. So if I had to guess, um, autosave. Yeah, cool. So we wait for managers, and that's never resolving because we're missing a manager, another one somehow. And this actually, do you know what? This couldn't have gone better actually because it's a perfect articulation of what I still think the problem is, which is that our initialization workflows are very brittle, and I'm trying to find a way to do it in a way that's better, but also still dev friendly. So it's very easy to do it in a way that's prod friendly or dev friendly. It's very hard to do it in a way that is both. And I'm struggling with that. Um, to be totally honest with you, like this is such a weird thing to be saying. There's a part of me that actually wants to make a manager, and I don't know if that's just a stupid impulse. But that currently is what the manager's object kind of is. And basically have it like take an array of other manager game objects and just initialize them on start. Um, and basically have the base position of all of the other managers be an uninitialized state, so that you have to sort of so that anything that has dependencies would happen via an orchestration layer that can manage those dependencies. But I don't know if that's overthinking it. Okay, what are we missing? UI manager, party manager, managing the party. Item, camera, game state, probably, right? I think I deleted the game state manager. I think we don't need it, so I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm gonna delete the check. That's what I'm gonna do. What are you gonna do? Probably being less endearing than I think I am. Yeah. No, nobody likes me. All right. Autosave. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this does work, but also articulated kind of the thing that I'm puzzling over, which is that actual initialization of managers is currently really messy and probably not the way that we want it to be, because right now it's finicky, and depending on the scene that you're in, you may get some, you may not. And that's actually kind of the big issue. So, of course, in the game, you're always going to come in through the main menu, but in dev, you might not. And I'm trying to think of a way. All right, you know what? I'm going to ask the robot. I'm working on initialization. All right, Claude, what do you got? Scriptable object for configuration instead of hard coding values in your single managers. Consider using scriptable objects configuration. That's not. That's interesting. That is interesting. Initialization is scene-based initialization. Create empty game objects in your scenes and attach a singleton scripts to them. I don't want to do that. Create a manager initialization script that creates and initializes all of your singletons at runtime. Ooh, addressables. What are addressables? I don't know what that is, and therefore it's the right answer. Yeah, this I'm already thinking about. And in general, I kind of feel like I want to move towards doing more things via coroutines, given that it, especially for loading, um, it's just taking a little bit to wrap my head around them because they work. I don't want to say weirdly, but asynchronicity is always a little bit different from language and technology to language and technology. So it's been something I've avoided, but that's interesting. Just a second. Nope. Okay, we're good. So certainly the addressable system is a powerful asset management tool that offers more flexible and efficient ways to load assets by address. Direct references provides a layer abstraction. This doesn't seem like it's necessary. I could be wrong about that, but still allows the developer to ask for an asset via its address. Once an asset is marked addressable, it generates an address which can be called from anywhere where the asset resides. Yeah. I mean, this is cool. I think it's probably just getting mentioned because it's technically related. I think really, um, yeah, probably. Okay. All right. I'll buy it. So this is interesting. I really like this. So I guess what we would do is in managers, we would create a manager initializer mono behavior like this. I don't mind that. What is this? Do I need to implement this, or is it? We use to initialize the service provider. Okay. Okay, so basically this is just saying that it expects you to have an initialize method. Uh, yeah. And then I like initializable, but I also kind of want it to have so an initialize and a reset method with the basic idea that our initializer should also be able to spontaneously reset all of its managers. Because that would work really well to basically guarantee that game state gets fully wiped when you load a game. And that's kind of the thing that I'm worried about. So the let's okay. For now, I think the thing that all of our managers are is list of mono behaviors, managers to initialize. List of mono behaviors. Uh hmm. Does that matter? I guess nothing's getting hmm. The loading manager does have access to loading components. So that might be a problem because we need the actual game object. But I guess okay. That can honestly be a separate thing that happens on initialize to get a reference to that. So those don't need to exist in the same location. And you might even make the argument that they shouldn't exist in the same location and rather should exist that the loading screen should actually exist inside of the HUD base component. Okay. Okay. I'm convinced. So basically this manager initializer would um Oh, I'm sorry. It's the okay. So this would initialize these managers and attach them to this game object. I guess it's whatever their initialize function ends up being. Uh, yeah, I don't hate this as an orchestration layer, and it would have the benefit of being able to go in both the base scene and yeah, okay. So mono behavior, we call this singleton persistent. And so you have a DDOL singleton that handles the loading of all the other singletons. Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So, okay. What would this look like? I guess we would I'll leave it in managers for now, but somewhere else eventually. Create prefab. Ooh, no. I'm surprised I haven't broken the game. Manager. Initializer. This is kind of what this was going to be, but it's messy because it just lets them all do that. So I think probably the move here is rather than attaching all of these to it and hoping that they'll just um, initialize themselves without failing. Well, I have mixed feelings because on one hand, if you work with a pattern of initializing these managers in a way that makes sense, then arguably you shouldn't actually need an orchestration layer. So as long as you make their initialization logic non-dependent and let them initialize in kind of an empty state such that they can be um, maybe initialize is the wrong word, but instantiate, whatever you want to call it. But this the manager game objects startup exist without any kind of dependencies, and then maybe their initialization happens on load or game start. So they then grab some kind of information either from the save game or from uh, some scriptable objects for a new game. And at that point, they become interdependent when they actually have that data. And then they have reset methods that allow them to, yeah. Mixed feelings. Okay, for now, I'm going to try this. And if I decide I don't like it, it's easy to change. I think either way, I'm realizing that I probably want a child class of singleton persistent for managers specifically that has initialize and reset methods as an interface so that we can reliably I guess as a semantic, any manager in the game should be able to be reset to its base state. Yeah. Yerp. Makes sense to me. That is a good point, though. Some of these things actually require other systems. Huh. Let's ask Clued. Some managers. Okay. So we'll have initialize and reset on all of these. Um, get mixed feelings on that, but I'll hold off on judgments until I've seen more things. But tentatively, this should allow us to say, okay, the first thing that we want is our I think input probably. Oh, interesting. I didn't actually see that, and that is very cool. I don't think that we need it, so we can just do this. That. What are you saying? All the coding is being done for me. Pretty scary. Pretty new world, man. Oh. Hello. We have a viewer. Okay, well that's weird. I thought I saw it. All right, then I don't. Then the dev stream is lying to me. Okay, so well, for your edification, I am working on an initializer script for our manager game objects. So if you're interested, I think I don't think I've actually put anything in place, so hopefully nothing's broken. I have most of everything working. You know what I can actually do? I can just do it in our build because I've got a build that I think I can be pretty sure is working. So basically, I've got loading pretty much end-to-end functional, and it's pretty snappy even in game. So, boom, boom, boom. Everything is working there. Same thing with saves. Creating new saves is functional. Obviously, the UI is hideous, but whatever. The thing that I'm kind of trying to fiddle with is initialization logic because we now have a lot of fucking managers. And if you watch the first start of the stream later on, what's funny is I was kind of curious of like how resilient is our loading system, and the answer kind of came to me is that it's very resilient actually, but that the problem is that we don't really have a way of guaranteeing that in any given scene all of the managers that we need to do things exist. Managers are game objects in Unity that are used to kind of act as an orchestration layer. So I've been puzzling over how to make sure that they get initialized, and one way to do it would be to have one big manager's prefab that just contains all of them, which isn't necessarily a bad idea. And I'm still kind of mulling over how to do that, or not how to do that, whether or not that makes some amount of rational sense. The problem is more that some of these managers are interdependent or have various dependencies, and you want to be sure that one other manager exists before that manager is initialized. And I'm debating whether or not this is all programming talk, but I'm debating whether or not to create a manager initialization script and then have a prefab that's a manager initializer that will one by one in order go through our existing managers that it's given. So you'd say like, I want you to start by initializing the input manager. Then I don't know, loading probably is going to be up there as well as the save game manager. And then the order stops mattering quite as much. You can have a container manager and an item manager that you need. But it ends up having a lot of the same issues. And a part of me is thinking, I kind of like this for cleanliness, just that you don't have a giant game object and inside you have this instead you have this orchestration layer that's scriptable, which is preferable. But I also am starting to think about initialization more conceptually as something where you want everything to be able to initialize itself without any dependencies. So probably I'm thinking that I'm gonna create a special class for init stuff, so that the game can sort of start itself up